And we are live. Live, 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 live. Ooh, what is that sound? Ooh, what is that sound? It was me.
That's kind of what I hear all the time. That thump, 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 thump.
Yeah. Hi,
Is that?
Ford. Text, I'm sending you the link now. Hi, Player. Hi, Lainey. Bigfoot Busters. Hey, Joe, Jan.
Leia.
Lainey, turn yours down, please.
Joe. Hey, everybody.
G Paul, how are you today?
I'm hanging in here.
Good. So, everybody, if you would smash that like button and share out the stream. We've got a really special guest tonight. Hello, Dolly Markle. How are you? Hello, Trey. And April, my Twinkie, will be on here in just a little bit. She's still at work, so she'll hop on whenever she gets a chance. We're doing good, Dolly. How are you, Ford? Hi, Gyro. Hi, KJ. And guys, after we do the interview, then I'll invite a few more people up, but just want a couple of people on here. And I sent that to your email text. Hello, Mystic Knight. How are you? And I've got some questions for Tex. G Paul, if you have any, you're more than welcome to ask them. And if any of you guys in the chat have questions that you want answered, if I don't see them right away, just keep putting them in there. And if the mods will kind of help me, you can just tag me in it. Just put the @ and then our channel name so we'll see it. We are having a great night, Gyro. I'm excited about this interview. And if any of you haven't met Tex yet, you're in for a treat. Thank you, Jenny, for sharing. Hi, Tex. How are you? Can you hear us, Tex?
I've got you.
Okay. Good deal. Hi, Crossroads. Hi, Gualas. Jenny. Hello, Jenna. How is everyone tonight? Hello, Cassie. Jody. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, Tex.
I'm glad you had me.
I have been excited about this one.
Yeah, me too.
Hi, James.
We're going to be seeing a lot of new people in here, so don't think that they're going to be trolls.
Yeah. We've been getting hit with them trolls here lately pretty bad, but
I've noticed a lot. Everybody has.
yeah. It's summertime, kids are out of school. So Tex, why don't you start out by telling everybody a little bit about yourself, and then about how you're associated with BDRP and
Yeah, we can do that. Kill some time and get some other people in here, I hope. Well, I started out, I had when I was 16, I had a Dogman experience. I had a sighting. And, but fast forward, years and years later, I, um, I would tell a select few people about it. And of course, you get the sideways looks, you get, whatever, you're jostling me and that kind of stuff.
right.
And then, be it a blessing or a curse, the internet was invented. And, I stumbled across all this, Bigfoot, and I started seeing the stuff about what they were calling Dogman. And it was because up until that point, I didn't know what to call what I saw except for a werewolf, And so I got to kind of looking into that and everything and watching some videos and poking around some channels and everything. And I saw DDoS had created the BDRP, which is the Bigfoot Dogman Research Project. And I liked what he was doing and like what I heard and everything. And so I sent him an email, about my encounter. And he had me on the show. And it's like as soon as the first time we talked, I mean, it was like instant friends. It was like it was weird. We started talking like we had known each other for years, off air, and just kind of bled over.
Right.
And for some reason, people enjoy listening to me talk. I don't know why, but
yes, they do.
He said, "Man, I'd like to have you do some narrations for me." I said, "Well, okay. I like doing that kind of stuff." And that's where it all started. And that was 2 years ago. And I've got my own little section on the channel. He's revamping the channel, but I'm not sure if it's on there or not, but it's called Shooting from the Hip with Tex. And what I would do is I would do interviews and narrations that were unedited. What you got is, what you saw is what you got, what you heard was you got. And so, whatever mistakes, whatever background noise, I wasn't concerned about that. I didn't want to do a bunch of editing on stuff, and I wanted it to be raw, and then I started, I wanted to do, I'm raised up in the woods all my life, and I started wanting to do some research on this stuff, and started going out with D up in Brown Springs, and as luck would have it, had my first sighting of a Bigfoot up there.
Wow.
And got up there and got in the cemetery and got hooked. You know how that is.
Exactly.
And but I've also had, some ghostly encounters, paranormal encounters, whatever you want to call them. Went on a ghost tour in Memphis, and you saw the picture. I think you put it on your Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Caught that, and I lived in a house that definitely had activity, and had some experiences there. And then been going out in the field up in Brown Springs, and man, it's been a whirlwind, and kind of fell into and getting more involved with the channel and just really enjoying it. And had the opportunity to talk to some people that, were having, hard times with their encounters. And you, you, you hear that a lot, Carrie's one of them. The guest he had on earlier was one of them, and it just breaks my heart that, people have these encounters and don't feel comfortable going back to doing what they loved. It's like they got something taken away from them. But I totally understand that feeling too, because when I had my Dogman sighting, for about 6 months, I didn't venture far from the house at all.
Right. That's understandable.
And it was it was not until the point to where I literally got pissed off and mad because I felt like I said this 1,000 times. I felt like I was being bullied and you can't go do this. You can't go do this. I said, I finally had enough, and I started going out again. Well, that short time later, that led to my second encounter that I think was probably the same creature. I didn't see it, but it sounded like it was charging that through the brush at me. After I fired a shot, I heard it kind of walking around and fired a shot off in the air, and it came charging through the trees. And I mean, it sounded like a bull, coming through the trees. And I'll be honest, I tucked tail and ran. I never looked back. I didn't want to know.
I do not blame you at all.
And and looking back and after talking to some people, looking back on stuff that had happened and stuff that I'd found around the area, and missing pets and livestock and stuff like that I'd heard. I think that Dogman had been around a lot longer than I had originally thought. And I didn't put all that together till the last 3 or 4 years.
All right.
But the more I learn, the more questions I have about Dogman and Sasquatch. It's just a phenomenal subject. And I made the decision about a year ago that I wasn't going to care what people thought, because you still get looked at, you still get called crazy, you still get, BS or that type of thing. And I thought, you know what? The heck with it. And so, for a lack of a better term, I came out of the closet.
Right.
And I catch flack for it, but it's never been what you would call aggressive or mean. I mean, people, you get more of the reaction of, really, you believe that? No, yeah. I don't believe it. I know it. You've seen one? Yes, I've seen one. And honestly, it's easier for me to tell people that I've seen Bigfoot than it has to take the next step and go, by the way, I saw, an upright walking canine. Yeah. So until the conversation gets really, really deep and, really you have to be talking to somebody that's open to even Bigfoot before you even breach the Dogman circle.
Right.
But, and like I said, the biggest thing for me is being able to help people, because it can be hard to deal with. It can be a very traumatic experience,
Yeah.
And there's, of course, the horrible encounters that do happen. Don't get me wrong, they do happen, but the real aggressive ones where people, do get hurt or worse, they get a lot of the attention.
Right.
And what I try to do is make people understand, if you've been camping, out with your family at a state or national park, or you grew up in the country or whatever, you more than likely had these things around you all along,
Right.
And if they were these evil looking to kill you creatures, well, you wouldn't be sitting there having a conversation with me. And I just try to get people to realize that they just need to be respected like any other wild animal, and try to put their mind at ease.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And it's no fault of theirs. It's just some people it's hard to get your mind around, something that you've been told does not exist for, all your life. And all of a sudden you're confronted with it. You have to try to make sense of that, and it's hard. So anyway, I got involved with the BDRP, and Dee's a lot younger than I am, but he's pretty much been my mentor in learning how to, research, and because I didn't know, I knew how to hunt, I knew how to trap and track, which helps,
Right.
but you're dealing with something that's different. That's, if they're half as intelligent as we give them credit for, they know you're there before you even put a boot on the ground.
Exactly.
So you're not going to go out and out camouflage these guys and sneak up on them. That's not going to happen. But he's pretty much been my mentor in all this, and I give him a lot of credit. He's a great dude.
I've really enjoyed the channel. I've went back and watched a lot of the videos, and I've really enjoyed his channel and Bigfoot Odyssey as well. It really opens up your eyes.
It does. And the problem that I run across sometimes is that people don't want their eyes open. They're afraid, and
Exactly.
but I'm not faulting them or at all. I don't blame them. Luckily for me, it turned out to be a positive thing. Sometimes
Right.
it's not.
Right. We run across that same exact thing here, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you see something walking through a wall or something. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. I know Bigfoot and everything goes back, even further than this, but what is your take on the Patterson Bigfoot footage?
oh, I think it's legit. I think that there's never been an ounce of freaking proof that it was a hoax. And in fact, it's just the opposite. There's been, studies done on the biomechanics and everything else, and of the gait that the creature has. And unless you take a superior athlete, and this is without a suit. If you take a superior athlete and have him mimic the gait, it's almost impossible for him to keep it up.
Right.
And not to mention, if that's a suit, that suit was decades, as far as technology goes,
Right.
above and beyond what they had at that point. Best thing Hollywood had at that point was the stuff they used at Planet of the Apes. And that wasn't nowhere near the quality of, if that was a hoax, of the suit.
Exactly.
And you're telling me that, Hollywood, that's got millions of dollars to spend on this stuff, can't do as good a job as somebody that a couple of cowboys did, out in the river bottom in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
Come on.
Bigfoot Odyssey says we can't make that soup today.
Exactly. And we can't even, do the CGI stuff as convincing as that film is either. The best CGI out there as far as, that type of creature goes, as far as I'm concerned, is the Kong films, the King Kong films. And even then, you're watching a movie. You're watching something that's been created. It's not, but I think it's 100% real.
I've watched it over and over again, and I can't find any fault in it. I mean, I believe that it's real as well.
I don't, you show it to somebody that hasn't ever seen it, and the first thing they go is, well, that's fake. That's a guy in a suit. Really?
Right.
Well, let me show you this movie. Now you tell me what looks fake. The problem is when you get a clear picture, it's written off as fake.
Right.
And it's almost impossible to get a clear picture.
And that's with anything that people just don't believe in. I mean, spirits, Bigfoot, Dogman. It doesn't matter how, like you said, how good of a picture you get or how much evidence you get. There are going to be a lot of people that don't believe it.
Right. It's weird. It's almost the better evidence you get, the more they want to say it's a hoax.
Yeah. Tony Hill says, I mean, you can see the muscles contracting. Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
And that was definitely, you can't make suits to do that.
Short of having a body to have proof. That's, yeah.
Right.
Well, and me and Dee have said, until somebody drops one on the courthouse steps in front of 1,000 people, it's not going to happen. Or in the middle of the Super Bowl halftime show. But and we think that there, and we're not the only ones. We're seeing evidence and everything of a population boom that we believe, and our thinking is that something's going to happen where probably it's going to be a juvenile that's following mama or daddy across the road, and it gets hit in traffic, late night, say out at 35 up by the casino, and there's 100 people there to witness, and the government's going to lose their opportunity to do a controlled soft disclosure.
Right.
And when that hammer drops, it's going to be devastating. That's one of the theories that we have, because the reason that it hasn't been disclosed, and because we theorize that that's the whole reason that the national park system was set up by Theodore Roosevelt, was to give these things, these creatures a place to have, but I mean, there's been multi-million-dollar operations, logging operations and everything else, and parks shut down and everything, just because they find an endangered owl or mouse or anything. What happens if you find a new species of either ape or subhuman that's roaming around? What's going to happen then?
Yeah.
One, people are going to be scared, but what they don't realize is they've been around these things, since time began.
Exactly.
But
what should someone do if they do come in contact with Bigfoot Dogman?
Don't shoot at it.
I was gonna say, you said earlier you shot your gun in the air. Was that like a bad idea? I mean, it charged you, so
Yeah, that was a bad idea. And it'd have been worse if I'd have had eyes on it and shot at it. Because think about it. You know how a wounded bear gets, and we think that's partially why you have violent or aggressive encounters is because of a negative run-in with people. That's a theory, that we have. Maybe somebody did shoot at it.
right.
Think about it. How would you feel if, you were just in your own house and somebody walks in your house and you look around the corner at them and the first thing you do is shoot at you?
Right.
How would you feel? Because and that's the attitude people need to change is that when you go out in these areas, it's that arrogance that humans have is that we own our, even if you rent a camping spot that, oh, this is my area. No, that's their house you're in. Respect it like you're in somebody else's house, and I think if they just treat them with respect, don't shoot at them. And if you can be calm enough just to walk away, I think you'll be okay. I've had up close encounters, and a lot of people, a lot of what. Now this is what I think. This is my opinion. A lot of encounters that people color as aggressive weren't aggressive. They were to the people that experienced them, but they weren't to. I don't think they were to the squatch or the dogman that was there. Maybe they were. Maybe if they're shaking a tree at you or blowing at you or whatever, that's not aggressive. That's just like, hey, get out of here. It's like, I'm not being aggressive with somebody if you interrupt something that I'm doing in a private moment, and I'm like, hey, little privacy here,
Right.
But they don't know how to communicate that. But anytime you get a 7, 8, 9 foot creature that's not supposed to exist, it's, it looks like he's mad. Well, it's easy to interpret that as aggressive,
Lainey wants to know, why do you think most mainstream scientists are skeptical of Bigfoot?
I think it would be because it would turn they'd have to rewrite every science book that's out there.
Exactly.
And it would, they've been saying that it's not possible for so long, that they're so arrogant and their ego's getting away. They don't want to say, well, guess what? We were wrong. And I think that's what it comes down to, is how to make them look.
Bigfoot Odyssey says, I think Tex needs to talk about his last trip to Brown Springs at night.
Yeah, that was interesting. I went up there and I was by myself, and when I went up there, it was daylight, and went to the cemetery, and it was a whole different feeling. And we've talked about this. in a cemetery. Normally, when you go up there, you can feel you can, and that's something else we can get into later. But there's a feeling that you get when these things are around, when these creatures are around, when they're present. And the cemetery has always been known for having it's got its own reputation as being an ominous place to go. And it didn't have that at all. There was it was almost a void of nothingness. And it was totally different than anything I've ever felt up there. It's like there's nothing here. But I went ahead and walked around and did some filming and stuff. And I went over to what we call our first research area, which is the main place we camp when we go down there and stuff. And that had a different feel to it. And I was getting even there, and this was one thing that was weird when I was even walking around the cemetery, got out of my truck and everything before I went over to the research area. I was hearing owls in broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't normally do that. You don't normally get that. And I thought at the time, that's a little odd, but okay. But they weren't at the cemetery. I could hear them like way far off down in the bottoms across the road. Okay. So when I got down to the research area, I was still hearing these owls. And I walked down in the bottoms a little bit. And I heard this one bird. I say bird, I don't know. It was, I've never heard a bird like this around. And I'm not saying some exotic bird that somebody had as pet didn't get loose. It may have, but I have never heard a bird that sounded like the one I heard. And it was loud, and I mean super loud. And it was like, it sounded like something you'd hear in the jungle down in South America or something.
Yeah.
And
I think Randy both heard that same bird when we were up there. We described it as sounding like a pterodactyl.
Yeah. It was almost hollering at you.
Yeah. That high pitched.
Yep. And so, I'm like, what the hell is that? And so what I did was, instead of walking around and doing the typical research, when we've been down there, we've had a lot of activity around that campsite, just us sitting around. And we didn't have to, it wasn't like one or two people. It was, at one point there was 4 people. At one time, we had an outing and there was like 10 people down there and we still had activity. I said, you know what? I'm going to sit here and just mind my own business and see what happens. And that's what I did. And it got dark and I'm sitting there and just, enjoying nature. And I started hearing something over to my left. The river bottom goes down. Well, it's a floodplain, goes down. And then you've got the road that comes straight into it. And there's a thin line of trees, maybe 10 yards wide, from the camp that separates the camp spot from what used to be a wheat field that they would harvest, but it's overgrown now. And the wheatgrass is just, I actually walked out in it. It's 8 feet tall. And so I'm sitting there and I hear something in the tree line in front of me and off to the left. And it catches my attention. I'm like, okay, something walking around. And that's one thing you really have to keep yourself in check when you're doing this kind of stuff. It's not everything you see or hear is a Bigfoot.
Exactly.
really you have to debunk everything before you can say, okay, well, I'll have any other explanation for it. And, you know, y'all, I'm sure y'all do the same thing with your research.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just because the door closes on its own don't mean the spirit did it. You know, you got to check. But same way, I sit there and I keep hearing this thing walk. And I thought, I got to listening to it and I'm like, well, what is this? You know, what's coming up on me? And it was getting closer. You know, it'd come out of the trees, it'd walk around in the grass, you know, the wheat, and then it'd go back into the trees. But it was getting closer. And I thought, man, did I stir up, did I get, pigs coming up on me? And I didn't want to do that. That's one thing down here well, all over the country now, you know, once pigs show up, I mean, it's, you know, it's, if I'm not going to, especially I didn't have a gun with me, that can be really aggressive. You know, that's probably the one thing I worry about more than anything when I'm out and about is down here is pigs because we don't have bears, you know. So I keep listening and I'm trying to I get up, I get my flashlight out. I'm looking around. I can't see anything. It'll stop and then it'll walk a little bit, but whatever it was, there was two of them. And I'm like, crap. I got mad. I'm like, crap. Now I got pigs coming up on me. You know, I don't have a freaking gun with me. You know, I'm by myself. I'm like, well, you know, and I let this happen for better than an hour. And thought, well, crap. You know, I don't want pigs walking up in my damn camp. So I got mad and I left. I don't know, it was about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And so I came back and then I started talking to Dee and Carrie about it. And on the trip back, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I never heard anything blow. I never heard anything snort. They weren't rooting.
Mm-hmm.
They're, you know, none of the typical pig sounds. But I didn't think about this until I was halfway back to the house. And I'm like, you fool. You probably had two squatch walking up on you and you didn't even, you know, you blew it off. And then after I got talking to Carrie, I thought, well, I don't know though. You know, it was probably just pigs. And then I got talking to Carrie, I got talking to Dee, I got talking to other people. And I even talked to some hunters that I know, you know, and I asked them, I said, hey, if you ever had pigs do this to you, you know, walk up on you, you know, and never make a sound, just footsteps. They're like, no, you know. And Carrie said the same thing. It would be pigs, you know. He goes, man, knowing what's out there, I don't think you can write that off as pigs. And the more I thought about it, I have to agree with him. And I'm like, I kick myself. Good God.
But it could have been deer, though.
Well, it could have been, but it was big, whatever it was.
Right. And unfortunately, the deer here don't get too big.
No.
Goober Clunker Vlogs wants to know if you've ever heard of I'm probably going to mess this up, bipedal, white, hairless figure. They've seen one. They said it was white and it was smooth, like there was no hair.
That sounds like a lot of reports we've heard about a rake, what they call a rake. It's something we that really the reports we're hearing more reports of that type of creature. I don't exactly know what it is. Some people say it's a demon. I don't know, but I have heard of that. I've heard that before. Yes. And that's what it sounds like. If it was long and lanky and gaunt, is what we tend to hear about them, and just freaking evil looking, and they put off a presence that's just, bone chilling.
And JC wants to know, have you heard about the Art Bell Hunter story?
Yes, that is my favorite Art Bell episode. And unfortunately, those of you that don't know about it, it was these three guys, I think it was, that were out varmint hunting basically at night down here in Texas. And I'd have to go back and listen to the episode. I want to say they were in the Big Thicket area. D disagrees with me and says they were up in the Red River. So I'd have to go back and listen to see exactly where they were.
Right.
Because either I'm buying D lunch or he's buying me lunch once we get the answer on that. But they were out varmint hunting at night, and they saw what they thought, because they would varmint hunt and sell the pelts. So they saw what they thought was a bear, which is really rare. So they shot it. They thought, man, we're going to bank on this one. And it went down, and they went, and then there was two of them. It's been a long time since I've listened to the story, but there was two of, they were either one, or I think maybe they saw one and they shot it, and then the other one came out of the brush, picked it up, and ran off with it. And they went and hid in, I think, a plum thicket. And so the guys go in and they draw straws as to who's going to go in a thicket and get this thing. And the guy that draws a short straw crawled in this thicket and had a 44 Magnum sidearm. And what he saw turned out to be a male squatch that they had shot, and a female squatch had picked it up. Well, she charged him in the thicket, and he shot her point blank with the pistol and killed her. And when they drug the bodies out, they were so close to being human looking that they were worried that they would get murder raps pinned on them.
Right.
That they buried the bodies at the side of a river or a creek, and they buried them about 6 feet deep, from what they said. And the guy told Art that upon his death, that his wife had instructions to send Art Bell the map of exact location, and he was to go, dig these skeletons up.
Right.
Unfortunately, Art Bell died before this guy did, and that's the last I've heard about it.
Oh, wow. Hello, Kentucky. I was sent a video the other day of a hunter who was talking about how he went into the woods that he always hunted at. Never had any trouble before. And then all of a sudden, he was seeing broken limbs and all of this stuff. And then he ended up seeing a Bigfoot, and it scared him so bad that he ran out, and they did a news story on him or something. But is it like you say that most of them are usually there anyway, without the people knowing? But is it uncommon for a place to be free of Bigfoot and stuff, and then them kind of migrate to that area?
Well, the theory of migration for these creatures is all over the map. And what I mean by that is there's people that adhere to the migration theory, and there's ones that don't. I think in certain areas you have troops that migrate, or family groups, however you want to put it. And in certain areas, they don't move around so much. I think the environment and what's going on in the area has a lot to do with it. You may have had a troop that had, maybe they started building in the area that they, because we get a lot of, people moving out, further and further and further. And so maybe their old home was getting, built up or whatever, and they moved out of it. And this is the place that they relocated to, because if he's hunting there and he'd been hunting there for years, obviously there was game there, because you're not going to hunt,
Exactly.
a dead area, especially for that long. So it's very possible that they had never been there before, but in the process of being basically booted out of their old home, that they ran across this place with, game in it, and they decided to take up residence there, especially if there was a good water source. Of course, most places with a lot of game, they have a good water source. So, and that's another thing, we think they basically use the rivers and the creeks for highways, basically, which makes sense. I mean, they're not going to they have to drink just like us. They're not going to get far away from a water source.
Right. And we have a place here that's right on the Red River, that a young girl was murdered at. And we have been out there multiple times. And I would love to go out there and kind of take on the whole Bigfoot theory, because there's a lot of things out there that we've heard, like the pterodactyl sounding mm-hmm. bird. We do have, one night we were out there and we heard this. Laney saw something kind of fly across the water there, but then it sounded like something shook a tree, and there was like all the animals started making weird sounds, and then this owl just come flying over the top of us. Literally like something just shook it out of the tree.
Right.
And so that kind of, we still to this day don't even know what that was. And every time we go out there, it's like birds, you have birds like flying all around you. We assumed it was spiritual,
right,
paranormal, but it would be interesting to see if there's something else out there.
Yeah, we could go out there.
River a lot, and a lot
there's no reason we can't get together and go out there and take a look. We'll, look around for sign, see if there's any structures that's been built, or any tree breaks or tree twists or anything like that, and just kind of see if there's activity in the area.
That would be awesome. That would be very interesting to see if all of you know, Tex and us, we're going to be doing a collab, hopefully pretty soon. And he is going to be doing the cryptic side of it. We're going to be doing the paranormal side of it, and we're going to kind of go out and run our investigations like normal, but we're going to be doing them together, kind of to see if there is anything that ties them both together. So I've heard Tex say several times, and I've also heard some other people say several times in the videos I've watched back on BDRP and Bigfoot Odyssey, that a lot of times these sightings are near cemeteries, they're near, stuff like that. So it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, my really what I'm interested in seeing is, if we get activity, Squatch activity, or what we believe is Squatch activity, and you start catching stuff on your equipment,
mm-hmm.
that is going to, especially with this last episode of Bigfoot Odyssey with the Omahas, that could lead a lot of credence to what they were talking about. And I'm not especially convinced that these creatures have supernatural abilities, and that's just because I haven't experienced that side of it yet. But I have experienced things like that last trip that I was out there, and I didn't talk about. But I have experienced stuff that I can't explain, and it wasn't flesh and blood, but I can't explain what I saw or heard. And I had other activity there too. So that's my hopes is that we either, we and it's like I told you, we're probably going to come back with more questions than answers.
Right.
But man, what a door to open. And I've also been talking. Oh, I'm sorry, I was stepping on him.
Go ahead.
I've also been talking to D, and he's going to go along on that trip with us, which will be invaluable because D has a relationship with these creatures down in Brown Springs. They know him. When Carrie and Linda did D's episode of Bigfoot Odyssey, D has a tune that he whistles when he goes down there and gets answered a lot. It's almost creepy. Before they even really got stepped out of the truck, D hadn't whistled, and they got something whistled his tune out of the woods to him.
Oh, wow.
And they were all three there to hear this. But yeah, and he's got, D can get close to these things. They know him. They trust him. That's the only thing we can come up with. So yeah, his presence will be invaluable. I'll take, it'll be D's deal. And because he knows their habits in that area now, and that gets into something that we've all talked about is people getting on here and other social avenues and going, well, this is what Bigfoot does. This is what you don't know that. This is what you experienced in your area,
right?
But you can't use it as a blanket statement for every Bigfoot out there.
Exactly.
Because what we're seeing is different behaviors. I mean, it's like different areas, like down in the big thicket, they're known for being more aggressive. They were known for being aggressive in Brown Springs up until I think we're seeing what D is dealing with is a different regime
right.
of, say, leadership than that was there several years ago. And I think that's why you don't get as many, you don't see the aggressive encounters that they had back in the day, back in Brown Springs.
Right.
So, but you can't, it's like we always say, there's no experts in this field. And if somebody calls themselves an expert, that should be a red flag for everybody, because
exactly.
You can't, like I said, you can't throw a blanket term on the behavioral aspects of these creatures, because it's not like we're studying them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Rick
wants to know, is there much documentation of what the Dogman looks like compared to Bigfoot?
I think there's just as much. As far as, there's less pictures of them that I've seen, but the pictures and I got sent a picture the other day, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he's here in the chat. But of what looks like to me to be either it's an adult. I don't know if it's male or female. Dog man, or dog woman. I don't know how you how you would say that. And a pup. And I thought the picture's pretty damn convincing.
Right.
I don't know if he's decided to put it out there or not, but I'll talk to him and see if we can get it out there. But I want to get it analyzed too. So probably I'll have Dee look at it, and then maybe we'll push it on to like Bigfoot Tony and have him take a look at it.
Right.
But I thought it was a pretty good picture. But of course, Vic Cundiff is famous for, typing the Dogman, just like we have types of Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And they're typing these creatures because they have you can't say, well, this is a different breed, this is a different species, this is different, whatever, because we don't have, it's not like you can take DNA from this dog and this dog, this dog. Okay, well, this is this type, this type. They're just doing it by descriptions and look and the way they look.
Exactly.
Excuse me. So they're, the differences in them, I would compare to the difference of, say, the difference in humanity. We're not a different species. We just look different.
Right.
African American, Asian, Indian, it's, you call that a different breed? I don't know if you put that term on it or not, if so, I'm a mutt,
So how, on record of pictures or anything of the Dogman, how big does Dogman tend to get?
The one that I saw, when I first saw it, I guessed it to be about 6.5 feet tall.
Wow.
But years later, in fact, I was at work and I was talking to a buddy of mine about it, and he was 6'5", and we were walking back to a storage area, and we were talking about it. And he goes, "Well, how big was this thing?" I said, "Well, I don't know, Mike. It was, I don't know. It wasn't no taller than those doorways there." What I didn't realize, and I should have, those were 8-foot doorways.
Right.
So this thing that I saw was somewhere between 6.5 and 8 feet tall.
Wow.
I was 16, so it's a long time that I'm having to recollect this information. Plus, you have to consider that, when you see something like that, your mind blows it up, but we've heard reports of the Dogmen being anywhere from 6 to, I've heard reports of 12 feet tall. The pictures that I've seen, I've never seen anything to scale on them.
Mm-hmm.
There's one picture, I don't know if it's real or I've heard both of them. It's real, it's fake. I don't know, but it's walking across the street under a street light. If that's real, that thing is freaking huge.
Yeah.
But I would say most of the pictures that I've seen were probably in the man size range. And when I say man size, up to 7 feet. Like I said, I've heard a lot of reports they get, 9, 10, 12 feet tall. Now, as far as Bigfoot goes, up until a year or so ago, I personally thought that, and this was after my sighting, because when I saw was man-sized, it was probably 7 feet.
Right.
But I thought that these people that were saying that this thing was 10 feet, 12 feet tall were really, they weren't purposely embellishing their account. It's just what I said a while ago. When you see something like that, your mind kind of blows it up. Anything that's, I mean, how many of us can really how many of you have had the experience of standing next to a person that is 7 feet tall and really realize, well, crap, that 7 feet's big,
Right.
and I think maybe, at that time I thought, well, they're seeing these things that are 7, maybe 8 feet tall. And I thought, oh, that thing was 10 feet tall, But Dee was driving down the road in Brown Springs, and it was springtime or summer, and he was taking a picture. He took a picture of the entrance to the cemetery to show me how grown up it was, because I was talking about going back up there. And he's like, well, it's basically a jungle here. Take a look at this. And I mean, like I said, he was driving down the road. He stopped and took a picture right there at the entrance. And he sent me the picture. I said, well, and he asked me something. I said, what about that big boy standing back there by that tree? He goes, what are you talking about? I said, take a look at that picture standing next to that tree. And there was, and I don't know if it's on the channel or not, but it's called Possible New Alpha Male in Brown Springs, or something like that.
Right.
And this thing was gargantuan. And I told Dee and Barry at the time, I said, we've got to go out there and get some comparison photos. And we did. And that's what's on the channel, or I don't know if he's put it up there or not. But we had Barry, he's 6'1", and he went and stood by the tree and had a walking stick and was holding it above his head, and the bottom of the walking stick was hitting where this thing's chin was.
Wow.
So you're talking something that's 12, 13, maybe taller.
Right.
And honest to God, it's in the shadows, but it's distinctive, man. I mean, it just jumps out at you. It did to me anyway. It looks like the silhouette, and I don't know if anybody remembers Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
He had that big bushy hairdo.
Yeah.
And how he was built. That's what this thing looks like. You can't see any features or anything, but you see this silhouette because he's darker than the shadows. And the picture was taken in broad daylight. He's standing back in the shadow right next to this tree. And I mean, I get chills just talking about it.
Right.
But, and we talk about, what we always, a lot of times when we was out there, we would hear what we call a 500-pound woodpecker.
Yeah.
And it sounds like somebody's got a fence post and just rapidly going pap, 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 pap on a tree. And it's just super freaking loud. And I'm like, man, what is that?
I see, we heard that noise too when we were there. We thought maybe it was like gunshots, something like that. But I mean, and it very well could have been, but we did hear a noise like that.
Well, what I was, when we were up there and we kept hearing this thing, I'm looking around, and because the trees are so thick down there, I'm looking around trying to find, maybe it's two tree limbs rubbing together in the wind, how they'll, when the bark gets rubbed off and they'll,
Right.
And I thought, I'm trying to find a logical explanation for this, but there wasn't a wind. And so we go on about our business. That was a good trip too. We got a rock thrown at us. We got, Barry actually had his first sighting up there on the other side of the trail head up there off to the right, not to the left down there by the cemetery.
Yeah.
He caught one poking his head, playing peekaboo with him out there.
Yeah.
But it's we get back and Barry texts me and D. He goes, "Y'all have got to check this out." And it was a video, and it was a zoo video of a big silverback beating its chest, and it sounded exactly the same.
Wow.
So now what we think is that's what we're hearing. When you hear that, what we call a 500-pound woodpecker, that's one of them beating its chest.
I know when we went to the top of the hill and into the cemetery, there was when you turn left to go into the cemetery, you know, they have the newer headstone right there at the top of the hill.
Right.
When you turn to the left and just keep going straight up, there's a kind of like an open field, but it's kind of like down in a valley.
Right. Right.
Over there is where Lainey just, every time we went over that way, she kept saying, "I hear puppies." And so we looked several times for puppies, and we just couldn't find them anywhere.
Well, and that's the area y'all were in when y'all caught that face on the video.
Yeah.
So
we definitely watched there. And I really wish we would have paid more attention to the parts of the research about Bigfoot and Dogman, because we really didn't know what we were going into when we did this. We were going for the cemetery. So when we got done with that, we had so many people saying, "Why did y'all go there alone?" And we're like, "Why?" And then they start telling us all this stuff, and we're like, "Oh, okay." Then a lot of it made sense. But then after hearing you talk about a lot of it and the noises that we've heard there and everything else, and Lainey did have a very bad feeling there, like we were being watched and somebody was following us and all that. So it'll be interesting to go back out there and see what we can find.
Yeah.
Now that we know. Bless you.
Yeah, it can be a crazy area up there for just about everything, as far as activity goes. I've never seen or heard what I think is Dogman up there. But I'm not going to count it out.
Right. Tony says he heard bionic woodpecker last week.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, we think, and I mean, we think that's what it is it's them beating their chest. Because if you'll go, Tony, if you'll go look, just do a search on YouTube for gorilla beating his chest. You'll see what I'm talking about, and let me know if that's what you heard or not.
Let me see. I'm trying to see what other questions I haven't asked you yet.
But I know when we go out there, all of us, I'm really looking forward to getting y'all down and walk down there in the bottoms and just the feeling that you get walking down through there, because they're watching you. As soon as you get out of the truck, they're watching you.
Right.
Because what D has found is what seems to be two sentries that hang out where I had my sighting, and over also off to the right, there's another one, and he's even clocked their movements. Because when I had my first sighting down there, me and D went But we had just got out of the truck. Dee was getting his stuff together, and I'm just kind of looking around, taking in the sights. And I just happened to look through this tree line out in the wheat field, and this thing jumps up and out of the wheat field and runs into the tree line down in the bottom. And my exact words were, "I'll be damned, there's one." You know, and Dee's is, and I'm not the only one that's seen that.
Right.
But Dee has never seen that. He's always looking somewhere else or getting stuff together, you know, because everybody that has seen that is people that he's taken there. So he's getting stuff ready because it's always right there. But we went down, and when we went down into the bottoms, turned to the left and went down back towards the river down there, we were hearing knocks up on the ridge, where I seen this thing run into that tree line. And what we think was going on was, he was knocking, telling the troop, you know, the rest of the family or whatever, you know, hey, they're still coming, just keep moving out of the way. And we're kind of pushing them ahead of us, so, you know, we wouldn't walk up on them.
Right.
But we never had anything aggressive happen to us. We found a hell of a tree twist down there. I don't have any other explanation for that thing, because this thing was a live oak.
Mm-hmm.
And it was every bit of 6 inches in diameter, and it had been twisted about 3 or 4 feet off the ground. It had been twisted until it just popped apart.
Wow.
And down there in the bottoms, there's dead trees all over the place. There was nothing else broken. And I mean, for that to happen, it, you know, it almost has to be the finger of God reaching down between those dead trees and twisting that one live one, you know?
Right.
And there was no tool marks, no tracks, or, you know, as far as vehicle tracks or nothing. We looked, and it was just phenomenal. There's a video of that on the channel too. I actually put my hand on it for size comparison, you know, and just the sheer power, raw power to just take that big of a tree and just twist it like it's nothing until it just explodes. It's just insane.
And I know we've discussed this before, and I think you've talked about it here, because there hasn't been like a lot of skeletal remains found of Bigfoot or Dogman or anything like that. Do you believe that they bury their dead?
I don't see how that's the only, well, I say that's the only explanation. I've heard a report that kind of explains that too. But I think they do, or they have sites that are sacred to them, burial sites that are sacred to them, that are so deep in the damn woods that we just haven't seen them. You know, because I mean, the woods that in the forest of the United States, honestly, are less explored than the moon.
Right.
And there's a lot of acreage out there that's never had, you know, human step foot on it. And because there's, you know, these areas that, you know, even back before, you know, us white faces came in here and ruined everything, that, you know, the Native Americans, they knew not to go in there, you know?
Right.
So that could be a possibility, or they bury them, or both. I heard an account of this, took place on the Red River, in fact, that there was a guy down there hunting, and he ran across a Bigfoot and gut shot it with a 30-30 at pretty close range.
Mm-hmm.
And it stumbled out into the river onto a sandbar, and 2 other Bigfoot rushed it and basically clotheslined it from the back and broke its neck and then tore it apart and ate it.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I don't know. Maybe they cannibalize their dead. Maybe they bury them. I mean, they're all possibilities. But I also think that there has been skeletal remains found. There's been bodies. I think there's been bodies studied. There's been ones captured. I think, you know, it's, I
Right.
don't call it conspiracy theory, but I think it's being covered up.
Right. And that's my next question is, why do you think that people aren't trying to like use tranquilizers or something? I mean, I'm not sure that something that big would even go down that easy, but.
Well, I think if you can tranquilize an elephant or a rhino, you can tranquilize these things. But the problem is one, getting a clear shot at it. Two, it's not the one that you shoot that you have to worry about. It's the two or three that's,
Right.
you know, to your left and right that you have to worry about. But because on occasion you may get the one that's roaming around by itself, but I think as a whole, they're never alone.
Right.
You know, so I wouldn't want to be the one to pop a tranquilizer in one's butt. You know, I don't want to be the one to put a round in one's head either.
Exactly.
I've always said that it would that situation where I can see the situation from Jurassic Park happening where he gets sights down on that velociraptor, and then the one just pokes his head in from the side and he's just clever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know,
Yeah.
that's what I see happening with these things. So I don't think I think it's possible, but I don't want to be the one to do it.
Right. So you do believe that we have captured some and.
Yeah, there's a report out there that's called the Miller document, and y'all can look it up and read it. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. We haven't been able to validate it.
Right.
But it's very, very interesting. It's supposedly the personal journal of a scientist that was working with the government studying these things. And he studied both live and dead specimens. And according to him, they have amazing healing powers. He said, I mean, you could almost watch the wounds heal themselves. So I don't know. But I fully believe that they've been studied. There's no doubt in my mind.
I believe that as well.
And I think that as far as disclosure goes, I think part of you've seen an uptick in, especially these little animated kids movies about Yetis and Bigfoot and all this. You've seen an uptick in that. And I think that that's part of disclosure, because I think they're going to try to, when they come out with it, they're going to try to say, that's what the mindset that they're trying to put into people. They're not dangerous.
Right.
So they don't have a widespread panic on their hands and have, every Tom, Dick, and Harry with a gun trying to put a head on the wall. They're going to have a bad enough time at that as it is. But I think they're realizing they're getting to the point to where they're not going to be able to keep the lid on this much longer. But like I said, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if an incident happened that just completely opened the can of worms.
Right.
And, I mean, we saw soft disclosure with UFOs when they came out last year.
Mm-hmm.
the government came out last year and said, yes, we've been keeping track of them and blah, blah, blah. And then it was really weird because that was supposed to be, this big thing that they were finally admitting it and all this kind of stuff. And right after they did that, man, it went quiet. Even on the UFO front, as far as, us, normal people and, and this community, it wasn't, I figured, man, everybody's going to be talking about this. And it really remained rather quiet. I was really surprised. And now you've got this new thing. I know we're getting off topic, but you got this thing that the Navy just put in place where, they've told all they're not going to disclose. They put new protocols in how their pilots are reporting UFOs now.
Right.
Hell, I saw that on Fox News the other day. So, but I think they're trying to do the same thing with Sasquatch. I don't think Dogman will ever see disclosure. I think once they unveil Sasquatch as an actual, being, that's out there, all these Dogman reports just misidentification, people just trying to find something else to,
Right.
conspiracize about. So, but, saying there's another race of lack of a better term, another people out there, and people dealing with that is one thing, but, oh, by the way, we got werewolves walking around too,
right.
Just so you know.
Yeah. Tony says, like maybe in North Carolina, the kid, and the one in Oklahoma, Tex.
You talking about the one that the kid that got lost and the bear brought him back or something? Maybe that's what he's talking about. But yeah, I know that one kid that got lost and they found him several days later, and he said they said a bear took care of him or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I've heard too many reports of kids wandering away from the camp when, families out camping and, disappear and then show back up all scratched up, but the big monkey brought me back or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Tony was talking about.
And, it's the same thing with, the missing 411 cases. I don't think all of them are Sasquatch. I think a big part of them are. But not all of them. But in actually in California, Humboldt County, I was watching a documentary actually about the marijuana farms up there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Murder Mountain. And there's just an unbelievably amount of disappearances up there. And they write them off. In this documentary, they write them off to, encounters with either drug dealers or marijuana farmers that gone wrong.
Right.
Because they run that mountain up there. The marijuana farmers basically run that mountain up there like the moonshiners used to run their areas.
Right.
They have a pretty tight lid on it. But it was more of, when I was watching that thing, it was more of what they didn't say than anything else about all the disappearances up there, because I think, and that county is the same, if I'm not mistaken, it's the same county that Bluff Creek is in, or very near it. I mean, it's very active up there. You know, it's in the Pacific Northwest. And so, yeah, I don't think all those disappearances are missing people or to be wrote off to mad marijuana farmers.
Right. Johnny2287 says, ask Tex about his missing time with Dee in the woods.
Yeah, that was creepy. That's actually took place in the same area I'm taking y'all, by the way. We had went down there and we got there. We went up to the cemetery, came over to the research area, and I think it was, if I remember right, it was 9:30 in the morning when we got out of the truck and went down to the research area, went down to the bottoms. And we walked around and you know, no big deal, and never lost sight of each other. And Dee's real big on, you know, because he feels responsible for people he takes down there, which is understandable.
Right.
And I have a tendency to kind of, you know, oh, look, squirrel, and I go here.
Yeah.
But he was very conscious of having me just almost on his hip the whole time. So we never lost sight of each other. And we get down there and we, you know, turn around, go back, head back. And because we're talking about, man, you know, because he had to pick up the kids from the bus stop and everything.
Yeah.
And so we had to get back and we go, man, I'm hungry. Let's go back and have some lunch, you know? And we walked past where the truck was parked, which when you get down there and you see the area, you'll say, how did y'all walk past this? Especially Dee has been doing this for 3 or 4 years down there. He knows that place like the back of his hand.
Yeah.
We walked right past the place we were supposed to come up out of. And we go, man, did we pass it? And we turned around and walked back and we found, God, we passed it about 1/4 of a mile.
Oh, wow.
You know? So when we got back to the truck and we got in there, it was like 4 or 4:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
And then, if that wasn't weird enough, when Dee started going over the footage that he had taken down there, it was like Dee has the camera and he's sprinting through the woods. That never happened.
Oh, wow.
And you don't see or hear me anywhere around. And when he's doing all this running around, he turns a 360 a couple of times. I'm nowhere to be found.
Wow.
And then also, you know how when you're using your camera, you know, if you stop and start, you know, they're in sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was all jumbled up.
Wow.
The sequence was all jacked up on the card. And so, you know, it was like 1, 32, 4, you know, it was weird.
That is weird.
So we thought we were gone for what we thought was just, you know, a couple of hours. And we had lost, I don't know, say it was 9:30, so 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4, 7 hours.
Wow.
So we still don't have an explanation for that. And that, I know that really, and me and Dee have very seldom talked about it privately. Most of the time we talk about it, somebody brings it up or we'll stumble across it and bring it up and we'll talk about it on air. We had one show that we said, okay, we're going to talk about this. because we thought we'd have some theories in it and everything like that. But I honestly, I don't know what happened because there was no ill feelings. There was no, weird dreams afterwards. We can't find any place we have any implants or, we don't remember anything on the mothership being probed or anything like that,
Right.
but we have no explanation for everything that is on camera that happened evidently that we don't remember happening.
Wow. That is crazy.
I know it's so, and that's where you get into the whole woo side of things. And I'm not a big believer in the whole woo side of things. So I don't know what's going on. That area down there. I know there's supposedly ley lines that cross down there. So I don't know. I mean, it's got us both stumped.
Now I'm really glad that me and Laney didn't wander off too far from the cemetery. Not alone, anyway.
It's like I said, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's a lot of, it's like I was, the reason I want y'all down there, there's a lot of, strange stuff, and maybe we can, with y'all's equipment, we can, find, maybe, I don't know, get an answer. Maybe, I don't know.
That's right. And if we don't get an answer, we'll just have to keep going back.
Exactly.
Tony was talking about the second account in Oklahoma where a 2-year-old went half a mile up a mountain, spent night outside, was found clinging to a rock ledge.
I did not hear about that one. I haven't heard about that one. But, I mean, how can a 2-year-old go a half a mile up a mountain?
Exactly. Especially without falling and, yeah.
I mean, a 2-year-old's lucky to navigate, a carpet floor, much less, mountainous terrain,
And to be able to get that far away without being seen or caught up to.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. There was something else involved for sure.
Exactly.
And being Oklahoma, the area that it is, I mean, it's a very active area, So it wouldn't surprise me if, Squat snatched him up and took him up there. I don't know why he would do that, but who knows? I don't know their mindset,
Exactly. Let's see. I think I've asked all the questions I had wrote down. Does anybody else have any questions? Tony says, Tex, any theories on the missing time?
Honestly, I have no clue. I mean, I've always jokingly say, we were in the mothership. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if because there was nothing weird about it consciously that we remember. Now, I did have somebody make a suggestion, and I have a hard time doing this. D may do it. I don't know if I can, but they suggested that we get hypnotized as, for regressive memories or whatever, repressed memories, and see if they can dig anything out. My problem is, I don't know if I'm susceptible to being hypnotized or not. But two, I don't know if I want to leave somebody I don't know in charge of controlling me. I don't want to hear I don't want to hear the number 4 and start flapping wings like a chicken out of the middle of nowhere,
Right. Kentucky says that he's heard there was Bigfoot sighting in the forest at Red River Gorge there in Kentucky.
That wouldn't surprise me. Kentucky's what we call Cryptid Disney World. That's what
Yeah.
Dee's labeled it.
Monty,
I know I want to go to Kentucky one of these days and do some research up there for sure.
Monchichi says there's lots of reports of time dilation.
Deviation, maybe.
Okay, D has seen, this is from Johnny2287. D has seen a 12 to 13 foot Sasquatch up close. What's the biggest cryptid Tex has seen?
Well, I guess it'd have to be the Dogman that I saw. I mean, although I think probably the Dogman and the Squatch that I saw were probably pretty close to the same size. So, but the Dogman encounter was a lot closer than the Squatch encounter. Dogman was only about 20, 30 feet away from me in broad daylight. So, the Squatch was probably about 75 yards away from me.
Yeah.
In broad daylight.
Joe Parker wants to know where the Dogman sighting was that you had.
North Texas. West of Fort Worth.
And Tony says, haha, I might regret something you don't want to hear. Laugh out loud.
Yeah. Keep those skeletons in the closet.
Kentucky said, me and Carla has seen and heard weird stuff in the forest of the Red River Gorge.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I know LBL is a very, very active area. In fact, I think just about everywhere in Kentucky is an active area, from what I understand.
Yeah. Goober Clunder Vlog says, like I've been saying, I saw something white, didn't look ape-like, but stood on 2 feet. Kentucky is a strange, strange land, cursed maybe. Laugh out loud. All the crows proved my point.
Well, you know, what is it Kentucky stands for? What it actually means? Dark land, but I know the Native Americans that they thought it was cursed, if I'm not mistaken.
Jan wanted to know if they could travel up north. Are you talking about Bigfoot, Jan?
She's talking about Bigfoot or Dogman. I mean, it's, you know, there's a lot of reports up north. I mean, Canada's got a Sasquatch Prudential Park. You know, that was a joke. That, by the way, by their government. But there's a lot of sightings in Canada.
KJ,
I don't think the cold bothered these things at all. I mean, you got the Yeti in the Himalayas. You know.
KJ said she don't know what she saw. She thought it was a panther. Then it stood up and was built like a footballer and hairy.
That sounds like a Dogman.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one I saw, and the one that the picture that I got the other day looks very close to what I saw. Is wolf-like. I've heard descriptions of them being Doberman-like, shepherd-like. You know, it's just there's a lot of different, you know, looks to them. So,
KJ is from Australia.
all right.
And that's where you seen it at, KJ?
Man, I think they have Dogman over there too. I know they have, of course, you have the Yowie, which I don't know a whole lot about, which is their version of Sasquatch.
Yeah. Rick says Dogman is reported a lot in Michigan.
Yep.
And Johnny2287 wanted to know if you know anyone who has seen a rake.
We had a guy that we did. I narrated a couple of his accounts, and we did a show with him. And the show was very controversial. That said that he had multiple encounters with a rake and Dogman. And in fact, the Dogman fought the rake, and that later that they killed, that him and his team killed the rake. So I don't. That's the only person that I've talked to that said they did, but I'm not. I don't know how much validity there is to that account.
And Kentucky wants to know if anyone has seen a chupacabra.
I never have. I know supposedly there's a woman down here in Texas that shot one and has it stuffed. There was a couple of shows done on her down in South. Is it South Texas? I think. I don't know if that's what it is or not.
Right. I'm sure
there's so many.
Cool.
There's so many, like the chupacabra that you hear about down in South America. It's almost it's almost, I want to say Dogman like it. Reports of it on two legs and stuff like that, but the more you hear about it, like in Mexico and like Texas, is more of a dingo-like critter.
Uh-huh.
There's that video of those two cops that supposedly it's a supposed chupacabra on their dash cam that they filmed running down the road.
Right. I think I've seen that. Tony Hill says, Tex, what would you do if you seen an 18 to 20 foot Bigfoot with spirits of native man and woman with it? And he said, serious.
What would I do? I can't really say. What I like to think I would do. I like to think I would have for lack of a better term, balls enough to try to communicate with whatever was there.
Right.
But in reality, I'd probably need to change my shorts.
That would probably be me too. Goober Clunger Vlog says, does Tex think these things could be interdimensional or extraterrestrial?
Man, I'll say this. Everything that I have encountered that I consider a Sasquatch or a Dogman has been flesh and blood. But like I said earlier, I have had stuff happen in the same areas that I cannot explain.
Right.
Whether it's these creatures or something else, I can't say. I can't write it off. I'm not going to tell somebody that, that has that theory that they're wrong. I can't. Because it's just like mine. I have a theory. I'm just going by what I've experienced. I think it's personally, I think it's something different than the Squatch, but I think it's something that's possibly for either the Squatch is drawn to them or they're drawn to the Squatch. Because the activities are so intertwined, I can't rule nothing out.
Right.
Is that a vague enough answer?
KJ says they have, I'm going to say this wrong, KJ, I'm sure. The bunyip. It's a large mythical creature from Australia. Aboriginal mythology said to lurk in swamps, billabongs, creeks, riverbeds, and water holes.
Nah, I've never heard of that. I'll have to look into it. Because I know a lot, what a lot of legend and folklore and stuff from other countries, if you really look into it, and the descriptions, you'll see that we have a lot of the same reports of the same creatures. We just call them by different names. So I don't know. I don't know what type of creature that's supposed to be. So, I mean, over in the Philippines, they have, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a vampire, for lack of a better term. It's mostly a female that can actually separate the upper torso and the lower torso. The lower torso hides in the bushes and the trees, while the upper torso sprouts bat wings and flies over and sucks the blood from a pregnant woman, and that's kind of how they explained still deaths back in the day. But that's one of their legends over there. So I mean, you got stuff all over the place. So
yeah. Jim Garrison says, Mr. Tex, you could have your own channel. Get your piece of the pie, brother.
Well, I am in the process of doing the official launch of my channel, but I will always be a big part of the BDRP, because if it wasn't for D, I wouldn't be doing any of this. And so first and foremost, I'm BDRP, but I am going to launch my own channel. I have my own channel now, but there's really not much on it. I'm fixing to revamp it. There's going to be a name change. A lot, there'll be content coming out. I'm planning on doing giveaways when we hit certain goals. I'll be doing live shows once I hit 1,000 subs. So I just got over 100 this last weekend, or this last couple of days. So, so hopefully y'all come by and we can have some fun. But me and D will always work together. Like I said, I credit him 100% with me even doing this. Kerry Arnold's been a big inspiration in this too, and he's right there going, yeah, man, do it. So and D's he'll have his fingers in it too, and in my channel, and so I mean we're all real. I mean and I know y'all are real big on this too. Y'all's channel and everybody involved is, you consider them family,
right?
And we do too. And we're all such good friends. You know, we're all close. We call each other brother.
Mm-hmm.
And is, you know, if one of us needs something, we're there, you know, the others are there for them, you know, no matter what it is. And so I am going to have, a short answer is yes, I am launching my, you know, my channel. I will, like I said, it's there. There's not much on it. There's a few videos, but it will have an official launch coming soon.
And thank you,
But thank you.
KJ, for posting Texas link in the chat. Everybody, make sure you go over there and, as we say here, butter his buns, because you definitely want to keep up with this channel.
Yeah, be sure and drop a link to the BDRP too.
Yes.
And Bigfoot Odyssey. There's so many people that I've been in contact with that you know, have been, you know, supportive. Lady in the Woods, and you know, it's just they're great, you know, and I wouldn't be doing this without, you know, their little, you know, everybody's little push. But yeah, you ought to do this, you know. So,
yeah, I have really been enjoying BDRP's channel and Bigfoot Odyssey. If y'all enjoy listening to Tex talk about this kind of stuff, you're really going to enjoy their channels as well. Bigfoot Odyssey also does interviews. BDRP, they have panel group discussions, and it's very interesting to listen to. They have a great community over there on both the channels. And I'm going to put a link to Tex, BDRP, and Bigfoot Odyssey in the description. So you all make sure you come back and go check their channels out.
yeah, it's you know, it's been it's been I can't put it any other way. It's been a blessing. It really has to you know, get to know these people, and I just, they're such great people, you know, and y'all are part of that. And you know, since we started talking, it's we've been, you know, we text back and forth, you know, it's like I've been lucky enough to, you know, be on your panel every once in a while, and I have a blast, you know. I do this because I enjoy it, you know, and it's, regardless, you know, my family thinks they don't, my family don't know what to think. But they'll come around.
This definitely is a great community, and it's been so good getting to know you. And I have people all the time asking me, when is Tex going to come back up on the panel? And several of them were here tonight to check it out. So we really appreciate when you come up on the panel, because everyone really enjoys listening to you.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And anytime I'm available, and you know, y'all want to chew the fat, just, you know, say the word.
We definitely will. And y'all all be sure to be watching out for our collab with Tex and with Dee from BDRP. I think it's going to be a pretty amazing collab.
Yeah, I do too. I think we were talking, we've pretty much nailed down mid to late July on this thing, I think, is what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's be sure and bring your bug spray. That's for sure.
Yeah. And we're hoping, as long as no one takes the idea before we can do it, that this is going to be the first collab of its nature. So we definitely are very interested to see what the outcome is.
Well, I don't care if it's the first one or not. We're going to do it the best.
Yes, we are. That is for sure.
I think, man, you know, and I was talking to Dee about this the other day. You too, actually. I think I said this too. The potential of what we could find out is just mind blowing.
Exactly.
You know, I'm, and I'm going in it with very, very high expectations, and I'm trying to keep myself in check, but it's hard.
It
It's
is.
hard. I'm really stoked about it.
It definitely is. Hello, Tim. I am very excited about this one.
I was really, really excited to hear that D was going to go with us. I mean, that is just that takes it to a whole new level. I mean,
Yeah.
with his expertise and I try to stay away from that word expertise, experience, with his level of experience and interaction and relationship down there. Yeah, man, it's just going to be it's going to be out of this world.
It definitely is. Jim Garrison wants to know, is there any new information on the guy who built the treehouse stand near Brown Springs?
Oh, um, the only the only he's alive. We know that. He will not talk about it, and he will not go back. That's all we have. And for all of you that don't know, I'll give you the Reader Digest version of that, and you can go over to BDRP and listen to the whole thing. There was a guy that went on. It was on the Texas side of the Red River. Was doing some hunting down there and built him a blind up in the tree, and had planned to spend the week there, and had come up in a boat, and instead of over land, he come up in a boat, and he was there, I think, 3 days, 2 nights, 3 days, something like that. And evidently, from what we understand, now this is the area that D calls the hunting grounds, because everything that he's found over there has been pretty good sized males, and the juveniles and the females tend to hang out over in the area that we're going to, across on the Oklahoma side. But anyway, he was there for a couple of nights. Evidently, they had tried to run him out of their area, and he didn't take the hint. And there was 3 of them that started harassing him in the blind and ran him out. And all he managed to take with him was his rifle. He left some night vision there. He left a bunch of ammo, his cell phone, all of his gear. He bailed out of this tree blind and hightailed it back to his boat. And according to him, they escorted him out.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, he is alive, but he will not talk about it. That's all the information we got out of him, and he will never go back from what he says.
Well, I will just keep my backpack on me. We're escorted out.
Yeah, well, we tend not to ignore the signs, and when they get kind of rambunctious and getting rambunctious and having a lot of activity is a lot different than you get a different feeling than you get when you wore out your welcome and it's time to go. That night that I went up there, the first time that I went up there solo and to the cemetery, and I had been up there twice. And then when Dee and Mr. Glass and Anders showed up, we went back up there a third time. And that's when we don't have any other explanation for it. I got zapped with infrasound. Because 1 minute I'm feeling great, I'm trailblazing, and then the next moment I'm white as a ghost, profusely sweating, feel like I'm fixing to pass out. And 5 or 10 minutes later, I felt better than I did before. We got growled at that night. We got screamed at that night. I caught eye shine that night. I heard whoops that night. Very, very active. So, but when you start getting growled at, when you start getting popped with it, infrasound or whatever they're doing, it's time to. I wore out my welcome that night.
Right.
So
K-Dog wants to know: are they more aggressive when you're in their territory? I'm assuming, like in the woods and all that, or are they just as aggressive in the open?
Well, honestly, that's the only. And then again, what I guess you could call. I really don't consider that aggressive. What happened to me, to me, that was just them telling me, "Get the hell out of here." I've never had what I would consider an aggressive encounter. So I really can't answer that question.
Right.
We've had rocks thrown at us and stuff like that, but that was that when that happened, that seemed to be to get our attention to another area and draw us away from another area. So, I really think it just depends on the individual creature or individual troop that you're dealing with and their level of aggression towards humans.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Thank you, Kentucky. Let's see. Jim Garrison wants to know: did Tex experience lost time during his solo outings at the cemetery or anywhere else?
No, just that one time. And Dee's never experienced it before or since either. So it's just that one time when me and him were together, no explanation for it. So, I mean, I really wish we could explain that, but I don't think we ever will.
Right. It's probably not meant for you to either.
And I don't know if we want the answer, to be honest with you.
Exactly. Yeah, we been timing them out first because then it makes them watch us, and then we get the view. We're getting some trolls in, but does anyone else have any more questions?
I think we've about answered everything.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I have had a great time. I've been looking forward to this since we decided to do it. And
I have too. And
I look forward to more.
We will definitely do this again. and I'm after we go and do our collab, we'll definitely have to get on here and discuss it. And
Oh yeah, that's going to be an awesome breakdown after we do that. I can't wait.
Tim, he is, yes, definitely in a large populated area.
Yeah.
He's from Texas.
Yes, ma'am.
Looks
And
like
if
the trolls are trying to take over the chat. So definitely everyone, please go and butter some buns. You're not going to be disappointed. Text 2517, the BDRP, and Bigfoot Odyssey. They are all awesome.
anybody that can shoot me an email at it's all lowercase, text bdrp@gmail.com. So if you know if you have an encounter or whatever, or you need to talk about an encounter, shoot me an email and we'll get you fixed up.
That is awesome. Oh, Tim, I'm sorry. He meant the Bigfoot population.
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah.
We're seeing evidence of a population boom. We do believe so.
Yeah.
And all the researchers we've been in contact around the country, they're seeing the same stuff. So, yeah.
And I appreciate all of you that came in from Bigfoot Odyssey and the BDRP and Tex. We appreciate you being here. KJ and Jenna, thank you so much for posting all their links tonight. And all the links will be down in the description as soon as this uploads. So make sure y'all go and check their channel out. And we will definitely have Tex back on here. Everything is bigger.
Thank you, guys.
Even Bigfoot. That's true, Rick.
Thank you, guys. I really had fun.
Tex. You have a good night.
You. You too.
Okay, thank you all for coming. I appreciate y'all grabbing them trolls as they're coming in. Thank you, Tony, for posting his email. If y'all have any questions for him or you have a discussion you want to have with him or anything, make sure you email him. And definitely be watching for our collab because it's going to be amazing. So check out the links when we're done. G-Paul, thank you for being here on the panel. Hi, Zeke. I got to stay on here for just a minute because Zeke just came in. Thank you all to everyone that came in tonight that was new. We appreciate you so much for being here. And y'all make sure y'all check out all the channels that are in here. We have a lot of great people here. That's okay, Isaac. You might want to go back and watch this, Isaac. It was very interesting. Joe, I fell asleep. That's all right, Joe. I haven't seen the Elvis Travels trolls in a long while.
It's been a while.
I appreciate you all coming in, though. We definitely had a good time tonight. And next week, we will be interviewing live with Aaron. So we'll be interviewing Aaron next Wednesday night. And then the next Wednesday, we'll have somebody else on. So I appreciate you all being here. Carlos posted your stream, Amy. All that figures. Well, they're in timeout, so at least we get the view. Has it been 3 minutes since I've been timed out?
No, I retimed out that one. I retimed out that one again.
Yeah. That's all right, though. Troll's a troll.
Yep.
Jenna. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, man. Can somebody just delete that guy? Don't even put him in timeout. Just delete him. And the yeah, man. I wouldn't mess with Sherry. Okay, guys. Let's see, what is today? Wednesday. Friday night, my Twinkie will be live. Y'all know who she is. I'm not even gonna say her channel name here. Oh, we would never do that, Sherry. We love you way too much. Thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate every single one of you. We love every single one of you. And we hope you have an amazing night. And we will see you Friday on Twinkie Stream. Love you guys. Bye.
Nighty night, pleasant dreams.